What's going on, creators? Yeah, just want to get on here and bring everybody back to now. Appreciate y'all being here and vibing with me for a bit. Yeah, today I'd like to talk a little bit about perception, and especially perception of like the world. Because there's a lot of negativity and negative spirals that can start to happen if you start putting your attention on like the shit of the world, the fucking slavery, the violence, the aggression. All these like kind of like hellish types of states of consciousness that exist in the world of the ego. But when we start moving into oneness, into love, ultimately choosing to not be rooted in fear and being constantly reactive to it, the world itself starts to reflect this interchange. And I want to share that with you guys because I know a lot of people that I watch, on YouTube or have watched through this progression, of like truth and spiritual things and whatnot. A lot of them are, I don't know, maybe this is just me, but it seems like they're stuck in this like negative spiral of just hopelessness. Oh, you see what the day's doing, all the globalists are doing this and this, and it's like, oh, you see how they're enslaving you? It's like, I don't feel enslaved at all, not even a little bit. I want to share that with others so that they can feel as free as I do in the here and now reality. And so, one of the things I've noticed, though, is whatever you feed your attention, your energy, has a tendency then to start to grow your awareness in a specific area. And if that area has to do with evil, really focusing your attention on this they, well, by doing that, not only are you elevating their position, you are then empowering them, growing that perceived power, and actually making a prison for yourself unconsciously, and enslaving yourself to the they, and like obeying them, and like making your day be about, oh, what are they doing, and this and that, putting all this attention, and putting people on pedestals and whatnot. And so one of the easiest ways to stop doing that, because it's ultimately, I found it to be self-destructive doing that, because then it then poisons your state of being for the here and now, as you're telling yourself these narratives of oh, that they must be a Freemason, or they must be in the Illuminati, and they must be satanic, and they must be doing this, and they must be doing that, and making all these stories and all these projections of people that have been brought to you through the screen of culture, for whatever reason. It's like obvious, like with the COVID shit, there was obvious propaganda and puppeting and narratives going on. But and there's a lot of that goes on. A lot of it's due to sponsorships and advertising and money, trying to appease every demographic, trying to get every little dime you can from everybody. But a lot of it, when you start connecting these dots, can really start to spiral you. And then as you're believing that the world is a terrible place, that it's a toilet, or whatever, that's run by a group of people that's enslaving you. Not to say that there isn't levels to things, not to say that there isn't power dynamics at play, yeah, but you ultimately give the authority to others. This is a free will creation, and you can choose to be free, or you can choose to be governed by this outer world. And I think biblically there was a example of that. I think it was the Israelites, and you probably might be wrong in this. He's like, it's been a while since I've like read this. I probably should have prepared, but like they had a choice between serving God or having a king rule over them, and they chose a king. So not to judge others that are in creation that have chosen to have a king rule over them, putting a person as this middleman between them and their creator. And that's in religion, that's in politics, that's in all these different things. Work things, having a boss ahead of you or whatever. A lot of it has to do with this illusion of safety that system kind of offers. But again, a lot of that's just an illusion that you can start to actually move out of that illusion the more that you work on your relationship with God and grow your faith. But it's a progression. It's not like all of a sudden getting thrown into the deep end of the pool, but that's not a bad thing either. So it's like what I notice though, with people and stuff that hits my radar, my attention, is a lot of this hopeless attitude, and it gets to me, like to the point I just is like, well, hopefully they'll come around to having a little bit more hope next time I dip into whatever they have to say in, I don't know, a couple months, whenever they hit my radar again. But it's this spiral of like, oh well, if this outer world conformed to my ideal of what would be a utopia, then I can feel a certain way. It's no different than a lot of the COVID people that was like, oh, if you don't get a vaccine, then mine doesn't work. It's the same kind of mindset with a different, physical thing, but it's still the same flow. And so, if you start to catch yourself doing that, of like, oh, the world needs to be different so I can feel at peace, that's a big red flag that there's a mental narrative going on within you, because once you change the within, the narrative, the assumption, the belief, the whatever story you're telling yourself that is in regard to this other creation that God created, whether it be a being, all things have been created by God. That's a biblical statement. It's not just whatever. I mean, that's where it comes from. And so it's like, part of like believing that is like, okay, well, but Mike, we battle against powers and principalities and spiritual wickedness in high places. And it's like, I get that, but where you're pointing at the physical, what I'm saying is your narrative of those people in high places is the issue. And it's like, as you start to let those things go and realize that, creation is what it is for a reason. It serves a function, and even in creating unconsciously, when you're starting to attract all your fears, and then all of a sudden it's like, holy shit, it's like my fears have come upon me, it's like a lot of that is unconscious, and it was allowed to happen. And so once you realize that a lot of these things that you can start being a spiral were allowed to happen and serve a function, well then it's easier then to stop just sitting there judging it like what creation should be and shouldn't be, and start to get more of in a place of letting go, acceptance. Not to say that it's an awesome thing to happen if you're like an act of violence is happening to you, or an abusive situation, or you're around a bunch of unconscious people that are projecting all their fucking shit onto you, and it's just like makes you feel like, oh, I gotta check my own sanity at times. I'm not saying that those are ideal situations, but in those you can start to evolve how you're thinking about things, realize that nothing that's happened to you is by accident or dumb luck. That's part of the chaos mind, that the slave mind, the matrix mind. That idea of like, oh, just random shit happens. Everything is a result of consciousness. If it happens, it happened first in consciousness, and your kind of job in investigating your own self is connecting the dots, looking backwards to see what kind of mindset just did that contribute to this manifestation. Even if it's like a shitty manifestation, you're dealing with some drama, maybe death, unexpected death, or something like that. And it's like, was I thinking, what was my mental narrative about when I hear that? And then check it. Because a lot of times with death we think, oh, it's the end, oh, they're gone, oh, they're separate from us, we're separate, they're separate and everything else, which is part of the old mindset. When you start looking how you're defining things, though, when my dad died, I actually experienced like almost like I don't want to say like a gift, but it's like one of the few moments, just with like the relationship with my dad, because like with my dad, my mom, it's like a lot of that is like almost like a selfish like relationship. I could always call, and it was like, oh, I know I could like talk to him about my problems and shit like that. But like very rarely was it like, oh, I really want him to be super happy, and like really thinking of him as like, oh, just like another being that, has fun, happy, joyful, that kind of stuff, and really wishing the best for him, until he was on his deathbed, basically. Then it was like, realizing that, he just, what he wanted, what I wanted him to experience love, and to be, do, and have anything, ultimately, and in doing that, wishing that on another, it actually, like, because there is really not another, in the sense that we're all connected. So when you wish like heaven for another person, it comes back on you in a feeling that you can feel in the here and now of an elevated state of consciousness, more I don't know how to describe it. It's something you can just test for yourself. If you think of somebody that you know that's died, and that you might feel like some grief or loss or whatever, they're not really gone. I mean, they're part of like the one consciousness. And so it was almost like God took the mask off, and it's like you just seen an individuated aspect of the one through a relationship that that is eternal. It's ultimately eternal because it's all part of the one. That as you work on the relationship with the one, you start to see how all these forms come and go from consciousness. And it has to do again with the narratives and stuff that you're telling yourself, of like, oh well, it'll be 50 years of linear time, and then I'll die, and then I'll see them again. That's one thing to think. Or you could connect with them in consciousness now, and maybe think, then all of a sudden something hits your mind of like a happy memory, some event that happened that was like really joyful, and realize that was a gift from them to you. It's like you're still not, they're not gone in that way, because they still exist within you. And as this thing progresses, I think that all of these illusions of death will start to dissolve, and you'll see them in form again. And realizing through just like life experience, with just experiencing so many supernatural things, with like shifts in like reality, glitching, things. And this is stuff that we're like, oh, Mike, you're fucking crazy. And it's like, once you experience like reality shifts and things just being off, you'll know for yourself. And it's like no one can tell you that what you experienced wasn't what you experienced. And so it's like, for those that like to, no fucking way, Mike, blah blah blah, and like get super triggered and whatever. It's like, as your faith in a specific aspect, a thing, creation starts to harden more and more into like knowing, the more you see that reflecting into your life. And that's with everything. That's why stewarding is so important, because you already have what you can handle in consciousness without resistance. And that's what you have demonstrated with your life so far. And so the way to start to grow different like areas of your life is to accept exactly what you have right here and right now. And look at it kind of like a garden. It's like, what can I do right now to move in a direction of, what's a good example? Like maybe being charitable. There's like a lot of people that would like to be charitable. It's like, but they have this block of well, first I need the money, then I can be charitable. Once if I hit the lottery, then I'd be so generous with my money. I'd give it to everybody. I'd do like I'd go to like the fast food places, and I just like pay it forward, and like get the guy behind me his meal without even thinking about it, and like all these types of things. And it's like, okay, that's a good, it feels good to think about that. That's a good starting spot. So it's like, well, how can you embody that now? So it's like being charitable starts with what you have. It's like if you get to a point where you can, say you only have like, you paid your bills, everything's getting tight, and it's like, well, I'd love to help out like a homeless person I see on the side of the road, or somebody that just is down on their luck, or there's some charity thing by the cash register that's just taking change and donations for like a funeral that these people can't afford, or who knows. There's all sorts of ways to be charitable. Even if you don't have like money, you can be charitable with your time. You can be charitable with like your attitude. Just smiling at people, is an act of charity on some level, because some people go through their whole day with just being surrounded by a bunch of brain dead people that just just reacting out of fear all day, and it's hard to be happy when you're just in a state of fear and hysteria. But like, what you can start doing is looking at what you do have is like, this is what I can steward. Maybe it's obviously isn't much, but if you look towards the Bible of like the lady that put 2 pennies or whatever in the collection tray at their service, and Jesus, like, she gave more than everybody here. And you're like, what? And she only gave a couple pennies, but it's like, well, that was all she had. You guys have all this abundance, and you ain't giving shit compared to her, and so it's all relative. It's something you can start tangibly doing. If it's $1, that's a step in the right direction. That's a step into the new state, which is ultimately who you are, which is abundant. Because what's going on inside of you then, that turmoil of like, oh, do I give the dollar? Do I not? If I had $1 million, I'd be so charitable, but I only have $2, and giving $1, that's like giving like half of what I have, and it's a loss. If I give, it's loss. Well, that's the old slave mind talking. That's in scarcity, because actually what you give, you receive. And so and as backwards as that sounds and illogical, I've demonstrated that through my own business. I've seen it working, and to the point where it's just like normal for me to think like that. Because when you give $1, if you have the assumption and the belief that, oh, what I give, it will be multiplied and given back to me through this current, this flow of energy, then it doesn't feel like loss. It doesn't feel like some big thing, and you start doing that with what you have already. So if all you have is $1, and you see somebody, like, you see something in creation that's like giving you the opportunity, because it will come like that as you decide, okay, I'm going to be more charitable. I'm going to move from scarcity to abundance, and part of that is because I just want to. I desire that because that's naturally who I am. And so, that's what I'm going to do. And so, when the opportunity then gets drawn to you through a bridge of incidents, where it's like, maybe a homeless person's like, hey, can I buck? Or, like maybe the person in front of you is like short like $1, for buying whatever they're buying. And that opportunity emerges, instead of getting in your mind about it, thinking about like, oh, maybe if I give this, I lose it. This is stupid. This is whatever that slave mind saying that's scarce. Use awareness to go, no, I am abundant, and this is how I'm going to steward what I have. I'm going to start being, because I want to be charitable. I desire that, so that's what I am. I am that, and so here's the opportunity. Boom, just do it. And as you do that, and as your faith starts to grow, and what you're stewarding starts to become more and more, because then you're able to handle these different areas of your life without a bunch of resistance and fear and drama and chaos. It becomes more of a flow thing. It becomes more of a peaceful thing. It becomes more of like a natural and normal thing. It's not some big fucking ordeal. It's like, I realized that through like having a business. I had at the highest point last year. I don't know. It's all blurring together. But I had 3 guys working for me, and like in doing that, it's just like all of this shit going on. Having to pay them all. Pretty big chunk of money. I mean, really. When you think about it. But like, but by the time that was all happening, there wasn't this big story about it, not this big mental narrative of like, oh, you made it, you did this, you have a successful business, you have this, and it's like, now it's a utopia, everything's golden and great now. It didn't feel like that at all. It just feels like normal. It just feels like, now I got to deal with this. I got to deal with it. It's like, it's not this big pedestal. Even with music, I end up recording, and this is like a bridge of incidents type thing. I recorded, something on guitar. I think it was a backing track or something like that. I put it on SoundCloud just for people to download it so they could like sing over top of it. They could do whatever with it. Just something for some positive energy for people to be creative and whatnot. And so what ended up happening, I get an email, saying, hey, can I use, license this track? It'll be perfect for this TV thing I'm doing. And it's like, oh, okay, I can't do that, because it was actually a cover. And it was like, I remember now, it was like a Johnny Cash cover of like Hurt, which is actually a cover of a Trent Reznor song from 9 Inch Nails. And it was like virtually note for note, like cover. I mean, it was like, you hear it and it's like instantly, it's like, oh, that's that song. And so it's like, I don't know if I can even license that to you, because I don't really have permission. I don't even know if I'm legally allowed to. I'm just giving it away. I just created it, and I'm not really trying to make any money off of it. It's just more of a, a thing just to get put out there type vibe or whatever. But I told her, I was like, well, I can make something that sounds like that. It's like I can do it in like a day. I get it to you. Ended up doing that. Turn into, yeah, like it. Made a couple changes or whatever to it. It was golden. And then it was in the show. And then that, and then actually another song I was able to, just through talking with the person, it's like, well, are you looking for anything else? I can just send it to you. So, maybe save you some time on trying to find some stuff. Because sometimes music supervisors or whatever, there's so much variety of music to listen to and try to find. It's like one thing you like listen to your favorite bands and stuff, and it's like, oh, I definitely like that song and this thing or whatever. But it's a different animal when it's like, I just need some like backing, backing music that they'll just really set this scene off. Maybe it's drama, maybe it's mystery or whatever. I just need some instrumental thing to really add to that scene. And so yeah, I gave her some more music. She paid for a license up front for it. And then, I started getting these royalty checks, and it's like a pretty big fucking royalty check from it, and like, it all just like came together like that, and it was just like, wow, okay, well, that just came together. But it was like, even when that happened, getting these like big royalty checks every 3 months or whatever, there's not this like, oh, you made it, type thing. You just like, it's just like normal and natural now, it's just like, oh, this is what it is, and it's like, and like with it, there's not this big fear of loss about it. There's not any of that, and it's just like, oh, it's like, okay, that's all it is, and like, getting more and more into those types of things when it comes to stewarding is important, because it's like getting out of the concept of future is really important for enjoying your life here and now. Bringing that, the journey and the destination into the here and now, really, I don't think can be done any other way than through stewarding, because it's like, as you take care of what you have and you're able to be at peace with what you have, when you get more things, because growth is a normal part of evolution. It's like once you can demonstrate in consciousness that is like you're able to handle it, you don't need anything else on the outside for your fulfillment. And when you start to become whole and complete now with your life the way it is, well, then every growth opportunity is just like, oh fuck yeah, this is awesome. It changes your mentality. And so and like with that, you can grow that, and it leads to a lot more hope and joy, because you start realizing that life is not what is going on through narratives in culture. It's like, it's so far disconnected. It's almost laughable. It's like you get this fantasy world that gets portrayed through media, the entertainment business, basically, which is an illusion, verifiably an illusion, and it's like nothing in that is happening organically and naturally. It's all being fucking manipulated by money, by advertising, by marketing, by fakery, through trickery, through manipulative means, to create buzz, to create illusions of success, which then people look at and they go, well, I must be the crazy one for not liking this movie. I watched Fargo, and this trigger warning for anybody that actually likes that movie, but I don't even remember when it came out, in like the early 2000s. Let me just pull it up, just for accuracy's sake. Fargo movie. When did this come out? 96. We got a lot of good actors in it. Steve Buscemi, William H. Macy, Frances McDormand. Good cast. It won a fuckload of awards. What is this rating they got on here? 8.1 on IMDb, 94% on Rotten Tomato. Google users 90% liked it. I don't know why. It's just one of those movies for me. I can't fucking stand it, and I can't understand how people even like it. It makes no sense to me, and it's like you get like a at the time in 90s or whatever when that came out, oh, it's like, oh, this is so fucking fantastic, you gotta watch this movie. It's so great, and I watched it. It's like, I can't even fucking get to the end of it. I turned it off. But then I kept getting this repeat message from people around me like, man, have you seen this movie? It's so fucking good. And it's like, I don't, maybe I didn't get to the good part, so I tried watching it again. It's like, it's even worse, even more. Even more I'm getting into this. It's like, this is a this is trash. I can't stand this accent that these guys, and then I probably, I don't even know how many, maybe a dozen times I tried to watch this movie, like thinking maybe I'd get to a point where I could like actually appreciate it. Maybe I could now. I don't know. I didn't think Citizen Kane was that fucking great either, and that's, like, oh, how dare you just, talk about, Rosebud and all this type of stuff. I had to watch that movie multiple times in college, and I went to college for media production, actually communication major, media production minor, and like, part of like media production, it's like film classes, and it's like, oh, Citizen Kane, what a masterpiece of fucking cinema. It's like, oh, look at the lighting, look at all this. It's like, it's not that good of a movie. Yeah, it's a sled or whatever. Big deal. Ooh, spoiler. Save you a couple hours of wasted time watching it. But kind of back on what I was saying. I think I'm gonna actually bounce. Like yeah, got a bunch of stuff I'm gonna kind of work on. I gotta get to my dad's house, and fix this ramp. I don't know if I'm gonna do that today, probably tomorrow. But I'm still, 10 months almost, since he's died or whatever. I'm still dealing with like estate shit and all of this drama. Luckily my uncle, which he was like appointed like the main person. Thankfully, it's like, like people were like, my brother was like, oh, aren't you offended that you weren't like named in the will to deal? It's like, fuck no, I'm glad my dad did that. My uncle's handled this way better. Not, way I would have handled it was like, I don't, lawyers do your lawyering or whatever. I don't care what's left over. It's like, but that's just me. And yeah, like I said, I think I'm gonna bounce. So thanks everybody for liking, sharing, subscribing, all the social networking things. I appreciate your spiritual support and your physical support. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Till the next now. God bless.